What if the biggest questions we have, questions about destiny, about justice, about mercy, were all tangled up together in one single powerful argument? Well, today we're going to dive into exactly that. We're exploring a section from the book of Romans that tries to connect all these dots. And you might be surprised to find out that it all kicks off not with some grand theory, but with a deep personal sorrow. So here's our roadmap for this journey. We're going to break it down into 5 key parts. First, we'll start with that profound sorrow. Then, we'll tackle the really challenging idea of God's sovereign choice. After that, we'll see how it all pivots to righteousness through faith. And then we'll unpack this beautiful metaphor called the olive tree mystery. And finally, we'll land on what it all means for us, with this idea of becoming a living sacrifice. Let's jump in. Okay, first things first. This is not some dry, dusty academic argument. It actually starts from a place of raw, gut-wrenching emotion. We're talking about a constant, deep-seated pain that's really the engine for everything that comes next. I mean, listen to that. That is the emotional core of this whole thing. The author, Paul, feels such intense grief for his own people, for Israel, that he says he would willingly give up his own salvation if it meant they could have it. So the question is, what on earth could cause that level of sorrow? Well, here's why it's so heartbreaking for him. He lists all the incredible spiritual advantages Israel had. I mean, they had everything: a special relationship with God, the sacred promises, the law itself, the promises, and even the human family line of the Messiah. They had it all. And yet, for all of that, many were turning away from the very thing it was all pointing towards. So this deep sorrow, it forces a really difficult question, which leads us straight into the most debated, most challenging part of this whole argument. And that's this idea that God's plan isn't based on our family tree or how hard we try, but on his own sovereign choice.
And right here, a super crucial distinction is made. Being one of God's children was never just about your bloodline. It was always about being a child of the divine promise. And the first, most powerful example used to make this point is Abraham's family.
And wow, this gets illustrated dramatically with Jacob and Esau, Isaac's twin sons. The choice between them was made before they were even born, before they had a chance to do anything good or bad. This is to show that God's plan is based on his call, not on anything we do to earn it.
And this is the immediate objection, right? It's what we're all thinking. If God just chooses like that, how is that fair? Is that just? Well, the text totally anticipates that reaction and confronts it head on. The answer given here is actually pretty profound. Think about it. Justice is getting what you deserve. Mercy, by its very nature, is not getting what you deserve. So you can't demand mercy. You can't earn it. It can only be freely given by the one showing mercy. And to really drive this point home, the argument brings in this powerful metaphor, where the clay and God is the potter. And, the clay doesn't really get a say in what the potter decides to make with it. Okay, so after wrestling with what seems like a pretty exclusive idea, God's sovereign choice, the whole argument takes this incredible, unexpected turn. It pivots away from that and toward a radical new kind of inclusion. So check this out. Here's the core contrast. You have Israel, who had the law and were actively trying to get right with God through their own efforts, and they missed it. But then you have the Gentiles, the outsiders, who weren't even looking for it, and they found it. How? By taking a completely different path, the path of faith. And the big fork in the road, the thing that separates these two paths, is what the text calls the stumbling stone, which is Christ himself. For people who trust in him, he's the solid foundation for everything. But for people who are trying to build their own righteousness through their own good works, he actually becomes an obstacle that they trip over.
And this is the amazing part. This path of faith just completely demolishes all the old dividing walls. Suddenly your heritage, your ethnicity, your background, none of it is the deciding factor. The ground is totally level. The only thing that matters is calling on the Lord. Okay, so if we have these two groups, Jews and Gentiles, how do they relate to each other? How can they both possibly be part of God's single ongoing plan? Well, to explain this mystery, we get this beautiful and really powerful metaphor. So let's just picture this for a second. There is one single olive tree, and this tree represents the people of God through all of history. And it's all being nourished by one single holy root system, God's promises to the patriarchs. Now, this tree is alive and dynamic. Some of the natural branches get broken off because of unbelief. And then, Wild olive shoots, that's the Gentiles, get grafted right in through faith. But, and this is so crucial, the text says the original branches can be grafted right back in if they turn to faith. So it's a story that's both a serious warning and, at the same time, a story of incredible hope. And this all leads to the absolutely stunning conclusion of the mystery. It turns out that both groups, Jew and Gentile, have found themselves trapped in disobedience at different times. Why? For one ultimate purpose, so that God could show his overwhelming mercy to absolutely everyone.
All right, after that massive, mind-bending theological journey, the argument just slams on the brakes. It asks the ultimate "so what" question. Okay, in light of this incredible, sweeping plan of mercy, how are we supposed to live?
And the answer isn't, here's a new list of rules to follow. No, it's a complete reorientation of your entire being. The only logical, sane response to a mercy that big is to offer your whole life, your body, your time, your energy, everything, back to God as one continuous act of worship. And what does this living sacrifice actually look like in the real world? It's not abstract at all. It's radically practical. It's blessing the people who curse you. It's having real empathy. It's pursuing peace. It's refusing to pay back evil for evil. It's literally feeding your enemy when they're hungry. It's actively overcoming evil with acts of good. This is mercy in action.
So where does this massive, complex, emotional argument finally end? It doesn't end with a neat, logical proof. It ends with an explosion of pure awe. The only proper response after seeing this whole picture is to just stand back and wonder at a wisdom and a knowledge that is so far beyond our ability to fully map out.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. If the ultimate story of the universe isn't really about who's in and who's out or about earning your way, but it's about a sovereign plan that results in mercy for everyone, how does that fundamentally change the way you see yourself, the way you see your neighbor, and maybe even the way you see your enemy? That's the challenge this profound text leaves us with.